My name's Brandon. My mom and dad went on a boat ride when I was little. I think I was 4? The next morning, my uncle came to pick me up. He took me to a big building and we met a lawyer. He said a lot of stuff that I didn't understand. But after a week, I realized mom and dad were not coming home. I became the heir of their empire. I inherited the business, the estate, and a whole lot of money in the bank. Except, I guess I couldn't touch any of it until I was 18. I grew up like a prince. Every morning a maid would wake me up. She would carry me to the kitchen where another maid would have my table ready. Another maid would deliver the most scrumptious breakfast, and she would feed me. A maid would then accompany me and drop me off to my academy where all the high society kids went. Everyone worshipped me at the school. I was rich beyond imagining, and I had no parents to answer to. I threw parties every weekend, and nobody could tell me otherwise. I was surrounded by hot maids, and all the girls at school wanted to be my girlfriend. The boys envied my life. I guess that was why I didn't have many guy friends. They were all plotting behind my back. 'Cause I was getting all the girls, and they got none. On the day of the exams, a teacher approached me. "Get up, Brandon." "Miss, I'm still not finished with the exams." "Get up now. You're coming with me. Bring your bag." "Where are we going, miss?" The teacher grabbed my arm and dragged me out of there. And before I got out of the room, I saw the boys chuckling and looking at me as if I was in trouble. I got nervous. I knew they were up to something. "It's come to our attention that you've been cheating." Cheating, sir?" My teacher grabbed my bag and ripped it open, and a bunch of papers I didn't even know were there fell out. My teacher held them up, and we all saw that they were stolen test papers. I knew immediately who put them there. I got expelled that day, and on the way home, those boys made sure I saw them. They smirked at me as I was being driven away, and they made faces and waved me goodbye. If I was a normal person, I would have been affected by that. But I knew I was ridiculously rich, and I could do whatever I wanted. I convinced my uncle to give me the budget to hire my own teachers, and I paid a bunch of money to the prettiest teachers I could find, and I made them live in my house. Now I was being tutored and privately taught by the hottest teachers in the state, and I made sure to post all about it so my rivals could see them and drool. It didn't change the fact that I was still pretty popular with the girls. I may not be going to the same school anymore, but every day when I wake up, I would still find them lined up outside my house, hoping for a glimpse of me. So really, getting me expelled only made me more desirable for the girls. And it only took the girls away from the school, which meant the boys didn't have a chance to try and ask them out. But here's the thing. I never felt attracted to any of them. And one day, I realized why. Mona was one of my maids. She was the one who cooked for me, and it just suddenly clicked for me. One evening, when she was serving me dinner, I looked up and saw hearts in the air. I was in love. I started spending more and more time with her, asking her to teach me how to cook my favorites. I would give her free time so we could hang out and play games. Sometimes I took her to my favorite restaurant. I showered her with gifts and took her on vacations. That made the other maids jealous of her. Why does she get gifts? She's just the cook. Exactly, and she goes on trips too. Half the time I'm left cleaning up her kitchen. I think she's given him a potion. She's a witch! I'm pretty sure she slipped him a love potion. I saw it. Mona became their target. They made her an outcast. None of them talked to her anymore, and her stuff started going missing one by one. One time, they even locked her out of the house and made her sleep outside. I had no idea all this was happening. Mona never told me. I only learned about it because I realized all of my maids were acting strange. They were extra smiley, and they went over and beyond like they never did before. The one who would wake me up did so by singing a song to softly wake me, except her voice was terrible and I got up in a foul mood. The one who carried me to the kitchen put perfume on, but it smelled too strong and it only gave me a headache. When I got to the dining room, I was surprised that Mona wasn't there to make my food. It was 3 other maids, and they served me an entire buffet of breakfast foods. Unfortunately, none of them could cook like Mona, and every single thing on the table tasted dry, bitter, and just plain old terrible. When none of their efforts worked, they all threw a tantrum, and they ran to my uncle to tell on Mona. And that was when trouble began. My uncle was furious that I was dating a maid. "I did not raise you to fall for a servant!" "Take it easy, Uncle Ben. She has a name. And what's wrong with dating Mona? I'm in love with her." "Love? Love? You don't get to date people for love. You're an heir to a multi-million-dollar fortune. You have to work as hard as you can to land an heiress. Someone who's on your level. You need to grow your empire. This is not the time to be having crushes. You have to ensure you can safeguard yourself. One day something might happen and you could lose everything. How do you think you'll survive if you have a poor wife? Stop this nonsense and dump that girl. She's not worth your time." I tried to hide my continuing relationship with Mona. I thought I could keep it under wraps while I pretended to follow what Uncle Ben said. Unfortunately, he still found out, and I don't know how. That time, he made sure Mona and I would be over. He fired Mona and told her that if she came anywhere near me, he would make her mom and dad lose their jobs. I missed Mona for a long time. I held in my anger for Uncle Ben. I bided my time. I worked hard on my studies and waited until the day of my 18th birthday, when I could finally take control of everything. The moment I turned 18, I was going to use all my resources to find Mona, and I would marry her. Uncle Ben couldn't stop me then. But my 18th birthday was when it all came crashing down. There was a huge party. Everyone was invited. Even my old classmates. Those boys even gate-crashed and were there too. But when it came time for me to blow the candles on the cake, the doors to the mansion swung open. "Get out! Get out of my house!" Behind the boy who looked alarmingly a lot like me, there was a disheveled woman simpering and muttering. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Ben. He got away." The boy walked up to the stage and dragged me onto the floor. "You stole everything from me! Now get out of here! I never want to see your face again!" I had no idea what was happening. And then Uncle Ben sprung forward. "Please, it was me. He had no idea. When your grandfather left everything to my younger brother, I felt cheated. I got nothing. I was the oldest son. And I saw my opportunity when the two of you were born on the same day. If I couldn't get the life I deserved, I wanted my son to." My world began to spin. Uncle Ben was not my uncle after all. And from listening to them argue, it turned out that that boy was my cousin. The real son of the man I thought was my dad. My real dad switched us at birth, and the woman who came with him, Louise, was my mom? No wonder my uncle, my real dad, was so protective of the inheritance. He was always so scared of losing everything. And now, it's happened. Evan didn't care whose fault it was, nor that I was innocent. He banished us from the estate. I was furious with my dad. All those years, he lied to me. So I left him and went in search of Mona. And I was surprised when I did, because she was far from the Mona I'd met. Mona started her own small business when she got fired, and over the years, it got really successful. Now she owned 2 restaurants. Mona was so happy to see me. She took me, and I helped in her business. We became partners in business and in life. We got married 2 years later, just as she opened her 6th store. It was as we were celebrating her success that a knock came at our door. I opened it and found my dad on the ground, thin and weak. He hadn't eaten in a week, and he begged for water. Mona welcomed him to our house. She fed him and gave him everything he needed. She even gave him a room to sleep in. And after all that, my dad apologized to her for everything he did. I wasn't ready to forgive him. But Mona, she smiled, took his hand, and forgave him on the spot. He begged us for help, for a job, and Mona was such a kind soul, she offered to make him a manager. But I told her it would be wrong to just give him such a good position after everything, and without any training. So we reached a compromise. We did hire my dad, and now he's flipping burgers at one of our stores. One day, I'll forgive him, but not before he pays for all the things he did. There were some people I didn't hire for the restaurants, though. Those boys. Their fathers lost their jobs after my cousin Evan toppled their companies, and they came running to me for help. I laughed and slammed the door in their faces. My cousin and I eventually patched things up. He realized I did nothing wrong, and that I was lied to. Sometimes he hires Mona's company to cater his events, and I named him the godfather to our firstborn.